Hey there, thanks for joining me. I'm super excited today to share with you the process of painting a Mockingbird and a Magnolia tree. This is a realistic painting that I just completed recently, and I think it turned out super awesome. I'm going to be painting it on a wood panel that's been gessoed, and yeah, so let's jump into the process of how I made this painting. So like I mentioned, the wood panel's already been prepped. I've already coated it a couple times with gesso, letting it dry, sanding it in between coats, and getting it just really smooth. Pretty straightforward to prep a panel. I'm sure most of you know how to do that. So luckily, I live in a neighborhood with lots of magnolia trees, and I walked up to my neighbor's place and took a bunch of photos of their magnolia tree for reference. Did a couple thumbnail sketches and picked out a layout that I like. So I found this really great image of Mockingbird that is free to use because it's part of the Creative Commons license, which means you're able to use this kind of material any way you like, reuse it, share it, remix it, etc. Certainly reference it for artwork. The conditions are you have to give appropriate credit attribution to the photographer, which I've done, as well as make whatever artwork you create from this image available under the same conditions. So what I'm not showing here is that I went into the computer and in Photoshop brought in all the photos that I'd taken of the magnolia tree and the photograph of the mockingbird that I found online, and just arranged them till I got a layout that I was happy with to reference for painting. Once that was done, I just printed it out, tiled it, taped it together to size so that it matched the same size as the panel that I was going to be painting on. The next step was to just start very loose and paint in a rough background. And here, I'm not really referencing anything too specific. I'm just trying to get in general dark areas, light areas. Looking at the photography to get some inspiration, but not necessarily trying to match things perfectly. Once I had the big shapes in, then I did start to go in and try to create some of the lighting effects that I was seeing in the back of the trees, where the sunlight was reflecting off the leaves, or you could see the sky through the trees. But again, I wasn't trying to be perfect and match the photography exactly. I just wanted to get the general feeling. Here I'm using the tiled image again to just start to put down some of the details, starting with the leaves in the background. And I didn't do all the entire tracing at once, as you'll see through the video. I kind of picked one section at a time. It would have been easy to trace the whole thing at once. In this case, I just felt like I wanted to work methodically through one section at a time and not have a whole bunch of line work on the panel until I was ready for it. So I do have to say that I thought the green was going to be a lot easier to paint than it actually was. So when I started actually putting in the magnolia leaves, the undersides are pretty straightforward. I used like a yellow ochre with a few other colors to tint it a little bit, but the greens were very tough. I think I ended up using phthalo green, and then mixed in some sap green, and probably several others actually in the process. I ended up using cobalt blue, believe it or not, for the reflections. Once I got into a rhythm and kind of got a sense of what colors were working, it wasn't a big deal. It was just a lot harder to match the magnolia leaves than I thought it would be. I think I did a pretty good job with it. Pretty happy with it. For the blooms, it was pretty straightforward. The colors weren't too difficult there. So it was just a matter of taking my time, laying down a color, reacting to the color. That's the great thing about acrylic paint. You can cover it as many times as you like, add as many layers as you like. You can paint with it in a transparent method or in an opaque method. It's it's very versatile. The bird I was super excited to work on. There's actually a lot more subtle colors in the bird than you would think. I didn't just use grays. I mixed in a little bit of green tones, a little bit of yellow, a little bit of magenta, even some blue. It's very subtle and probably hard to see. Probably easier to see in person. But it was a lot of fun to try and paint the feathers and the bird in a realistic way. Probably heard me mention this in other videos, but these are the types of subjects that I just avoided for years. I thought that you have to use oil paint or some other method to get realistic details with acrylic. I really didn't understand, that much about how the paint actually works and what effects you can achieve. And so this was a great opportunity for me to try to learn something new and continue to just improve my skills and learn how to do things realistic and just have fun with it. And I was super excited. I couldn't wait to make this video because I was so pleased with the results. I was really proud of the effort here that I put forth. And are there things I would have done differently? Probably, sure. I probably would have used a larger wood panel and made it so that I could fit the entire bird on the panel. But I was very pleased with it overall, and I think the client was super happy with it too. Yeah, and I think that I'm just basically learning a lot of skills that I think are going to translate in the future. I still am playing around with this idea of mixing abstract art and realistic art or representational art, all those different styles into one canvas. Obviously, not doing that here, but having this ability to paint realistic will, I think, inform the subject matter that I choose to pursue moving forward. I'm already starting to work on some paintings that include a little bit of both styles. So at the end, once the acrylic paint is dry, I cover it with an isolation coat, which is like a protective clear coat. It's not varnish. The varnish goes on after the isolation coat, and the idea is that if the varnish ever changes color or gets damaged or scratched in some way, someone could restore it in the future, and they could remove the varnish, and the isolation coat would protect the original painting underneath. I'm not sure if there's much of a trick to this, just thin coats. Try not to brush it too much. Even though there is a few lines that are created by the brush, that usually settles down and it evens out as it dries for the most part. So yeah, this is how the painting turned out once it was framed. I bought a nice floater frame for it, and I think it turned out really awesome. I just love these frames. I have a local shop, Toko Framing, that does great work with those. Here I'm sealing the back of the wood panel with GAC 100. I'm going to write a little inscription on the back of the panel, and I want to make sure that the inscription doesn't bleed into the wood and stays sharp. I also stamp the back of my wood panels with a little stamp with my information on it. So here's the final painting. Again, I was super happy with it. Hope you like it. I really appreciate all the support that I'm getting on this channel. So thanks for joining me. I really appreciate you coming by. Like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Comment, blah, 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 blah. Take care. Bye.